It all began long ago, before Alberta was a province, before Canada's iconic maple leaf flag, before the Canadian Pacific Railway had even begun construction.
I dream of a railroad that will cross this great country. Thus today, in 1881, the Canadian Pacific Railroad will begin construction to connect eastern Canada with British Columbia.
And yet, just as one historic dream began in the Parliament of Canada, another was beginning that very year in our own backyard. Meet Senator Matthew Cochrane, a man who would go on to form some of the first, largest, and most well-known ranches in Canadian history.
Dear Prime Minister, I'm still so grateful for the position I've been given in the Canadian government. However, I'm looking to expand my horizons.
Although Matthew Cochrane held a prestigious position as senator, he would later admit in 1896 that he had taken the floor of the Senate only once or twice in nearly a quarter of a century.
It is in the best interest of the Canadian government to set aside up to 100,000 acres of pasture land per breeder for a modest rate. This will allow for a booming agriculture economy in Canada.
This recommendation would make Matthew Cochrane the moving force behind investments in livestock breeding in Western Canada. However, like any good capitalist, he had a personal investment in the project.
Cochrane Ranche Company. With this name, I will form the first of large cattle ranches in Western Canada. 109,000 acres of Wild West.
Yet Senator Cochrane was a wealthy businessman who enjoyed the comforts of his large home and empire, so he needed to hire a manager for the ranch while he kept the main office in Montreal. Major James Walker, a former Northwest Mounted Police inspector, was the man for the job, and so in the spring of 1881 he was sent to Montana.
How can I be of service?
I'd like to purchase some cattle, sir.
Well, I have Bessie. She's a really good milk.
6,800 cows, sir.
Whoa, might need more than just Bessie then.
The journey was long, and many cows were lost during the trek back up to the Cochrane Ranch. When they arrived, many more perished despite the mild winter. It wasn't until spring that they began to brand the herd.
We'd love to help you, Mr. Walker. No one could survive out here without a hand once in a while.
But as the settlers began to brand the cows, they noticed something odd.
Hey, my cow Mildred has the same spot on her forehead. Wait, Mildred, is that you?
What? Who's my
The
cow?
problem was none of the settlers had branded their own cattle who had snuck into the Cochrane Ranch herd. None of them left with the number of cows they started with, and Major Walker's own herd had become smaller, but this did not discourage Major Walker.
Dear Senator Cochrane, I would like to buy 4,000 more cows from our company in Montana. The price is fair, and if we bought now, we would have the cows here before winter.
Dear Walker, I may not have any ranching experience or know the climate of the West, but I think that I can do better. We will suspend your deal until I can find a better one.
But Senator Cochrane could not find a better one.
Dear Senator Cochrane, because we suspended the first deal, the price has risen. In fact, it will now cost $25,000 more, and we wasted valuable time. If you would have only listened to me, find a replacement as soon as you can, because I resign.
So, for the time being, Major Walker took care of the ranch. The new herd of cows were set to begin the journey back to Alberta in October.
Dear Senator Cochrane, we need to keep the cows here for a month so that they can gain the strength needed to plow through the storm.
I've been ranching my entire life in these parts. To continue on is just going to kill your cattle.
I know you haven't listened in the past, but for the love of God, let us keep the cows here.
The team in Montreal and I discussed it, and you will continue to the ranch, Walker.
Obeying his orders, Major Walker forced the exhausted herd through the snow. As a result, many of the cows will never make it to the promised grazing lands. However, this would only be the first of many hardships in this disastrous winter of 1882. Luckily for Walker, his replacement arrived, so he retired from his position at the ranch.
Now everyone, my name is Mr. W.D. Kerfoot. I've ranched here in Virginia many times now, so I know the drill. I'm a cowman at heart, so let's graze this herd.
It wasn't long until the storm they had plowed through in Fish Creek caught up to them. It snowed and snowed and snowed.
Brr, it sure is mighty cold here, but luckily the cows can still reach the grass through the snow.
It was as if those words Kerfoot had somehow jinxed them, because the winds brought in a brief chinook, melting the top layer of snow. But in a blink of an eye it was gone, and all the warm winds left behind was a thick ice forming on top of the snowbanks.
I do. It's not my fault I didn't get any hay up here. The winters were supposed to be mild.
Kerfoot was left to watch the herd starve, hoping that enough of them would make it through the winter. When the spring finally came out, of 12,000 cows, only 4,000 remained.
Dear Kerfoot, obviously raising cattle in Calgary is impossible. It cannot be done. The winters are simply too harsh for the cows. We will be moving the herd to Washington Lakes under someone else's care now. For now, we will pasture horses.
For once, the ranch thrived. Senator Cochrane would actually import the first thoroughbred stallion into what is now Alberta. However, the senator still wanted to pursue his dream. He divided his ranch in two, the cattle portion keeping the Cochrane Ranche Company name, and the second under Mr. Kerfoot becoming the British American Company.
Dear Kerfoot, I had a brilliant idea. We can raise sheep.
Dear Senator, I respect your wishes, but I'm a cattle rancher at heart. I like cows.
Dear Kerfoot, you could purchase 8,000 sheep from Montana.
Despite his unhappiness at the thought Kerfoot sheep arrived in September, yet the somewhat cursed luck of the ranch continued, and in the spring of 1885, a prairie fire engulfed a portion of the herd.
1,000 dead. I can bring them to the Cochrane Lake. Then at least the water will be close.
Winter came in with a passion that year, the storm creating monstrous snowbanks wherever it pleased. One of these banks formed in the corral the sheep were kept in. The sheep climbed over the snow and into the lake, where hundreds would die before the herder could reach them.
Dear Senator Cochrane, I know I signed a contract with you, but this is not what I signed up for. I signed up to manage your cattle ranch, and these cows seem a lot like sheep. You do not listen to me when I advise you, so I resign.
Dear Mr. Kerfoot, if you wish to break our contract, fine, but I refuse to pay you.
The senator was not kidding, but in 1887, Mr. Kerfoot left the ranch. Mr. Kerfoot had to take him to court just to be paid for his work at the Cochrane Ranch. At this point, the senator decided he would discontinue the sheep operation as it was not profitable with the declining price of wool, so the ranch returned to raising horses, but under a new name, perhaps to signify a new beginning, the Bow River Horse Ranch. Matthew Cochrane's legacy is the town of Cochrane, nestled within the heart of the ranch he founded, a town whose roots begin with the Cochrane Ranche Company and his dream. A dream lives on today. Senator Cochrane saw the potential of Western Canada and began the development that would grow into the Alberta we know today. The end.